Hi, St. Mark family. I wanted to come to you today in this format because I wanted to speak to you all all at the same time. And I want to talk to you for just a few minutes this morning about our Saturday 7 p.m. Mass here at St. Mark. So those of you who attended last weekend's 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Mass heard the announcement that we were suspending the 7 p.m. Mass. We did not make that announcement on Sunday for reasons that'll become clear here. And so I wanted to share with you a little bit about why that decision was made. I also understand we've received some feedback on that. There were people that were surprised at that and some that were saddened and so on. And I actually, as I'll explain in a second, I think that actually is a good thing. It's a sign that I was maybe hoping for. But I want to give you some information about what led to that decision and also what I propose to do going forward. So, as many of you remember, we started that 7 p.m. Saturday Mass about a year ago here in November. And we did that as a way to increase seating capacity at the time when we were still having some seating restrictions from social distancing and so on. It has been always my intention, as I think you well know, to make it as easy as possible throughout the pandemic for as many people as possible to come to Mass and to receive the Eucharist and so on. That has been very, very important to me, and I think we've proven that over the course of the last year and a half or so. I have, with the help of my staff, been doing an attempt to do that, to make it as easy for everybody to come to Mass that wants to as possible. And so the Saturday 7 p.m. Mass was such an action. I also want to remind you of what I said when we began that Mass, and that is that I personally really like that Mass. It's very nostalgic to me because I'm old enough to remember when Saturday evening Masses or Saturday Masses began, they were almost always in the evening. They weren't in the afternoon. So the Saturday evening Mass is very heartwarming and nostalgic to me. Our Saturday 7 p.m. Mass did accomplish its purpose, at least to a point, right? But the attendance in that Mass has never grown. It has been kind of steady the whole year that we've been offering it. And it's varied between about 140 people and all the way down to 49, which is a pretty low number. Now, raw attendance numbers are not the sole factor of why we would decide to offer a Mass or not, but it plays a part. But more recently, the trend has been a decreasing of that attendance, even though all the other 4 Masses attendance are growing and growing very nicely. So it's just been the 7 p.m. Mass whose attendance has been diminishing a bit. But aside from the lowering attendance, I think the larger issue in this Mass is that we have had for some time an extremely difficult time getting liturgical volunteers to help. Now, I want to make it very clear, I am so grateful for the help of those who do volunteer. There are folks who are there every Saturday and they're very helpful, and I want you to know how much I appreciate that. But we have what I consider to be an inordinate number of sub-requests for this Mass. So our Ministry Scheduler Pro assigns people Masses according to the criteria that you yourselves as volunteers establish. So you say, these are the Masses I can, these are the Masses I can't. And so the software then assigns the assistants. But we get a lot of sub-requests. And the problem with sub-requests is, number one, they come late in the week a lot of times. Number two, and this goes for all of the Masses, sub-requests are not the end. We have always asked, in fact, very strongly asked, if you're going to put a sub-request in, you need to do everything you can to get a hold of people as your replacement. Because if you don't, one of two things happens. Either we don't have the assistance that we need in the Mass, or my staff has to start making phone calls. And that's not fair. It's not fair to the Mass. It's not fair to my staff and so on. So that is probably the biggest issue that we've been facing. My staff and I have been discussing this for a number of weeks, even though the decision seems like it was sudden. We've been discussing it for a number of weeks. But I, as pastor and as the chief liturgist of the parish, made the decision based on these factors that I have mentioned, that we have tried to encourage people to sign up to volunteer and so on, and it's just not been working all that well. So here's what I propose. I am willing to continue that Saturday 7 p.m. Mass through the month of November. And if things improve in the areas that I've mentioned, then we will continue with the Saturday 7 p.m. Mass. If, however, these things don't change significantly, then November 27th will be the last 7 p.m. Saturday Mass. I want to remind you again from my heart of two very important things. Number one, this is a Mass that I personally like. It's not because I detest doing it or anything like that. It's a beautiful Mass as far as I'm concerned. It could be more beautiful if we had more attendance and especially if we had more volunteers. But the second thing I want to reiterate is that I will always do everything I can to make it as easy as possible for people to come to Mass and to receive the Holy Eucharist. So here's the bottom line. If you want this Mass to continue, you need to step up and support it. And finally, there's one other issue that I need you to be aware of, and I think most of you are. Father Recio, our parochial vicar, my associate pastor, is assigned here at the pleasure of the bishop. And there is no set term. So Father Recio could be assigned to a different parish anytime by the bishop. He could be assigned next week somewhere, or it might be this summer. We don't know. Only the bishop and the Holy Spirit knows about that. But when that happens, and if the bishop does not reassign a new parochial vicar here, then I will of course be alone, which is fine. But if that's the case, we'll also at that time need to reevaluate our Mass times. I want you to know how much I appreciate all of your support here at St. Mark. I want you to know how blessed I am to be your pastor. I want you to know that I don't make these decisions lightly or without great consultation. And so I want you to know that this is my effort to say, again, if you want this Mass, if it's helpful to you, then let's boost it a little bit and see if we can't turn that around. May God richly bless you and your families.